week's episode of Stardust Crusaders, Jotaro and his team have finally arrived at Dio's mansion, and they are confronted by his video game-obsessed butler, Darby. Yeah, there's another Darby out there. This is actually the younger brother of Darby the Gambler. This is Darby the Playa. The stakes are raised in this week's episode as Jotaro and his friends are separated. Joseph, Jotaro, and Kakyoin are caught by younger Darby in this weird black hole, and he takes them down to this weird illusion world, which looks like a beach. And this is where they're going to play the games for their souls. Very similar to Darby the Gambler, except this time, they're going to be playing video games. Now, younger Darby is very similar to older Darby in many ways. I mean, they do share some similarities. They have those weird silvery patches on their faces, except that he's a little bit more honorable. He isn't going to cheat, or at least that's what he claims, and just like his older brother, he collects souls. And instead of turning them into coins and poker chips, he transforms their souls into dolls. And I am really creeped out by puppets and dolls that move around and stuff, like in horror movies, and the way they animated them just looked really disturbing. They're really messed up. They can actually talk and everything. He's already got a doll that's made for Kakyoin too, so he's clearly been planning this the entire time. And he also kind of has the entire team by the balls. I mean, they could really just attack him if they wanted to. The problem is, earlier they had this little confrontation where he predicted where Star Platinum was going to punch him, and somehow he was able to get away from that, and he actually touched his arm. And what happened is, his stand, which is known as Atom, actually had its hand attached to Star Platinum, and that's actually growing into Jotaro's skin. It literally looks like it's like assimilating with his arm. It's really disturbing, and if they try to do anything, he's just going to completely crush his arm, so they have no choice but to play his game. And Kakyoin is going to be the very first opponent, and what's really awesome is, Kakyoin is a true gamer. He has played all of these classic games, and he has no trouble in playing this guy. And what I also love is that this is just a Kakyoin-centric episode. It's been a while since we've seen him. He's been hospitalized for most of the Egypt arc, and it's really great to see him come back. I especially love the fact that he's incredibly calm and confident and not scared, because after experiencing all the shit with Dio and having his weird flesh bud injected into his forehead, pretty much anything is pretty easy at this point, and he's an expert at this game. At first, it almost seems like this younger Darby character is going to have a huge advantage with his stand, who comes out and starts hitting the buttons like a freaking madman, and then Kakyoin gets in there and pulls off some maneuvers like something out of F-Zero GX, which is freaking awesome. That's what I really loved about this one. It sort of reminded me of playing like all of those old like F-Zero and racing games back on Super Nintendo, N64, and GameCube. There really needs to be a new F-Zero game. Nintendo, get on that. But the other thing that's really cool about this episode is it was pretty obvious that it was going to go into a two-parter territory, especially because by the end of the episode, they don't conclude the race, and it's pretty obvious that Kakyoin is going to lose. He's just behind. And if you watch the preview for the next episode, it pretty much gives away the entire ending of this week's episode. Otherwise, this one was really intense and awesome. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Stardust Crusaders? It's really good to see Kakyoin finally return, and the tension in the air in this episode is amazing. The minute they just step into Dio's mansion, it's amazing. And I'm not really sure how they actually got to that weird illusion world. I don't know if it's actually because of younger Darby's stand. I actually think it's something that maybe Dio did, or maybe there's another stand user who did that, because they mentioned that there's probably about 2 to 3 more stand users that they're going to have to go against before they even get to Dio. So I imagine they're going to be setting up some big battles. Not to mention that, you know, basically Avdol, Polnareff, and Iggy have been left behind completely, so they're probably going to go off and do their own adventure eventually. But what I really loved about this episode was just how they animated that big race and that big action scene. That was so intense and awesome. And this whole episode just had a lot of great styling going for it. You know, it opened in a mansion, then they're at a beach, then you got these weird creepy dolls which are animated in this really disturbing fashion. Next thing you know, they're playing video games, which is using CGI graphics and everything. So there's a lot of different things going on in this episode, which makes it very appealing to the eyes. But then again, this is Stardust Crusaders. The entire series always looks really freaking awesome. The race scene was great. I especially loved all of the tense maneuvers that they were doing, and I love the animation of when they're going crazy on the controllers, which looks so unrealistic. But then again, this is Bizarre Adventures. JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. They can get away with this type of stuff. I especially love the one scene when they go inside of that tunnel and they're racing to get in there, and Kakyoin is able to sneak his way in, freaking Men in Black style. I thought that was great. And the scene here is so tense because the tunnel goes dark, and you can't see anything until they get to the very end of this tunnel where this big cannon is about to blast them, and they actually drive up on, like, the walls of the tunnel and everything. It's great. And then it just ends with a great to-be-continued screen. The character of younger Darby himself is interesting. Like I said, he's very similar to the older version of Darby, but he's different enough that he's just as unique as his brother is. His design is ridiculous. His Marge Simpson hair and his overall just design is absolutely insane. I also thought it was really funny that he just decided to choose a beach for them to play on. It's just a very nice, calm setting, and, you know, the next episode just, I really wish they didn't show so much in the preview for the next episode, because it totally gives away what's going to happen. Like, I can already see where the next episode is going to be going, and it's basically just continuing the trend of these two-parters that we've been seeing through pretty much most of the entire Egypt arc, which, frankly, I'm okay with, but it does make some things kind of predictable. The thing I'm most interested in seeing, though, is seeing Joseph Joestar play a video game, because he's kind of an old-school guy, and, you know, this is the 1980s, at least that's where it's taking place in the story, and, you know, video games have only, you know, come so far at that point in time. And, you know, obviously they're making them look a lot more awesome than they did, actually, in the 1980s. But still, it sort of, like, gives off that old-school feeling, like they're using these weird, old-school-looking, like, third-party controllers. The game that they're playing actually looks like something that might have come out, like, in the late 90s, early 2000s, but they're using cartridge-based games, so I think that's pretty awesome as well. As an old-school gamer, I really appreciated all of that. This week's episode, though, was just really stylistic, a lot of fun, a lot of really good action moments, a lot of creepy moments, especially with those dolls. Younger Darby is a really interesting character, and I can't wait to see how the team is going to get out of this situation. So I really like this episode, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, a pretty damn solid episode of Stardust Crusaders, which you should definitely check out if you've been following the anime or reading the manga version. So I like this episode a lot, but what about you guys? What did you think of the introduction of younger Darby and his stand Adam? What do you think is going to happen in the rest of the Egypt arc? And what do you want to see from the rest of the series? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it, share it with all your friends, and subscribe to the channel. You can also check us out on social media. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.